Hey there, my name is Bini&Eden and this is the B family. On today's episode, we'll be talking about 5 things you need to do before you invest in Uganda. If you want to see more videos on investments in Uganda, please comment below. And while you're at it, like, share, and subscribe. So the first thing you need to do is create a limited company. And this will give you the proper structure to essentially invest in Uganda in any shape or form. So before you buy that land, that house, or that property, as it may be, you need to create a company. What we essentially did as a family is we created a company called Eve Hospitality Group. And Eve Hospitality Group is essentially how we operate legally in Uganda. And we did that because we come from the hospitality industry in the United States, and we knew that we wanted to get into the hospitality industry in Uganda. That gave us the ability to purchase this property that you see here, Eden Manor, structure it the way we've had it going as an Airbnb and as a boutique hotel and an event rental space. But before we went ahead and bought the property, we created Eve Hospitality Group as a limited company. Me and my wife became shareholders and directors of the company. That gives us the proper tax structure, the proper immigration status as it may be. So before you come here, remember, do not come here and try to put things under your name as it may be, or put it under your cousin's name or your brother's name. A lot of foreigners, a lot of Americans, a lot of expats fall into the trap of having to depend on other individuals to put things under their name so they can avoid the fees and the taxes that come with it. But going the proper and the most legal and legitimate way will save you a ton of headaches at the end of it. So now that you've created your company, you've registered it with URSB, it will give you the proper immigration status. So the second thing you need to work on is the proper immigration status in Uganda. So when you come here, you first come in here as a tourist visa, and it'll give you anywhere from ranging from 30 days all the way to 90 days. And as Americans, we usually typically get 90 days as a tourist visa to stay in Uganda. Now, most people try to work under the radar. I've seen people try to do visa runs or, all kind of running through hoops to get over the fact that they need a legitimate work permit. But once you've created your company as a director, now you qualify for a Class D work permit. And what a Class D work permit allows you to do is basically work in Uganda legally, safely, and without the hassle of being worried about looking over your shoulders, which is extremely important. The last thing you want to do is come into this country and try to operate under the radar and eventually basically have your business or your property confiscated and kicked out. And this is not just true of Uganda, this is true anywhere. This is true of the United States, Canada, Europe, other African nations, as well as Asia. You need to have the proper immigration status. And unfortunately, people think about that a little too late when they've run into trouble. We saw that with several people when we first came into this country, and we wanted to avoid that headache. So the number 2 thing that you need to do once you've created your company, go ahead and apply for the proper work visa. You can either do this yourself, or you can have a consulting firm help you or a lawyer help you. We used Expat Assist, and I'll always shout them out. Tina and Ian helped us with that process, and it costs generally around $2,500 for one person's work permit. So I have a work permit when I work in the country. My wife has a work permit, and that also allows your children to get dependent pass. It allows them to go to school. There's several different kind of visas. I know they've got special ones for the oil and gas sector. Agriculture has its own, education has its own sector. And before you can even think about investing into property, investing into equipment, or starting off a business or that cafe or that dream idea that every one of us has, make sure your immigration status is up to point. So you've created that company, you've gotten the right immigration status, perhaps you got your work permit nice and on hand now. Number 3, do not, and I will repeat this, do not buy land or real estate without doing your due diligence. Because that is the dream everybody has, is to own that piece of property, whether it be a home or a property they're going to build a business on. Land fraud, scamming in this country, like any other country, is very, very real. But there are legitimate ways. If you take the next few steps to do your due diligence, there are ways to invest in a very safe manner. If you don't, you will end up being scammed out of your hard-earned money. This is something we've seen through and through We've seen it before. We've heard about it before coming to Uganda. We saw it while we were in Uganda, and we continue to see it nowadays. A lot of it has to do with people not doing their due diligence. When I'm talking about due diligence, I'll give you an example. When it comes to the title of your land, there are people with multiple titles. People take people's words and buy land in cash, buy land without a lawyer. Don't do that. There are people who have multiple claims to one particular land. There's squatters issue, and the squatter issue in Uganda is an extremely real issue. And please don't think because somebody guaranteed you that they can get rid of these squatters. One of the most beautiful things that the Ugandan government does is it has rights, tenant rights. And there's a particular structured way that tenants have to be removed from their property, even if they are squatters. So you may own that land, and you might have the title to that land, and everybody's approved you for it. But if somebody's lived there for, say, a few years, it is going to be extremely difficult for you to get those people out of your own very property. So before you buy land, all right, before you buy that property, do your due diligence. And due diligence means surveying your land, physically going there and surveying your land. Do not buy land sight unseen just because you saw it online or somebody sent you videos. Do not do that. That's a common mistake that I've heard of people doing, believe it or not. If it's too good to be true, it's an absolutely too good to be true. Land is really not cheap. I can't call land cheap in this country. It's extremely expensive, in fact. So please do your due diligence. Go to the right ministries, check for the titles. Make sure you check with a lawyer, double check with a second lawyer that's gonna check your first lawyer. Go to the LC1. The LC1 is the local elected official on the village level, on the neighborhood level. That's essentially one of the most powerful men that you need to meet. If somebody ever tells you, I'll introduce you to a minister, tell them no. Introduce me to my LC1. That's the first person you should go to when you come to Uganda. If you're interested in buying in any neighborhood in Kampala, go visit the LC1. He'll tell you what's what. These guys are extremely sweethearts. They're great people. They've lived in the neighborhood for a very long time. It's the lowest elected official, but they wield a lot of power in terms of what's going to happen in that neighborhood, what's going to happen with that property. So before you buy land, do your due diligence. And the first step I would tell you is go visit the LC1 of any property that you're going to visit. There's several thousand neighborhood and parishes in Kampala. So one of the first things we did was visit our LC1, and we understood that, yes, this individual that's selling us the property is the proper owner. Yes, it is free of any kind of claims. There's things called caveats. Caveats are what I would call a lien that's put on a property. Make sure it's free of any kind of KCCA related taxes, Kampala City Authority as it may be. That's a zoning authority in Kampala. So Ministry of Lands is another place you want to go and check for the title. You have to do the extra work necessary. Don't depend on anybody or anybody's word of mouth or I heard this, I think is this. That's not going to save you when you've dumped all this money into the property and all of a sudden you find yourself without a property, without money, and just out there looking at everybody like you got scammed. Take every step necessary before you buy that piece of property until you have the full confidence that you have the proper title, you have the right of way, there's an egress, regress as they may call it, an exit strategy for you. So that is number 3. Make sure you do your due diligence before you buy any property in Kampala or Uganda in general. So now that you've created a company, now you have your immigration status, and perhaps you've bought a property or you've not bought a property, but you have that business idea. Number 4, please, this is very important. Make sure you have a deep understanding of the real numbers when it comes to investing in Uganda, especially investing in businesses in Uganda. And what I mean by that is very simple. Take your time. So many people rush here. So many people rush into a business or an idea and they dump money into it and without doing their due diligence, without understanding the real numbers or the real climate of the market in Kampala and Uganda in general. I advise anybody that's coming to this country to invest or to live in this country, spend at least bare minimum 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6 months just living here. And do the everyday things. At the very basic, before you get into the business that you want to get into, understand how much it's going to cost you to live. I always say Uganda is cheaper than most Western countries, but it's not cheap at all. Kampala can actually be one of the most expensive cities that you're going to live into. And how hard it is to get certain things because of the roads, but maybe electricity costs, water costs. So please do your due diligence and have a better understanding of the numbers. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you take your time, sit down with Ugandans. The only person that's going to tell you what Uganda has to offer and what the real numbers when it comes to Uganda is Ugandans themselves. Speak to other business owners, other Ugandans that own businesses. Sit around and visit the marketplace. Go out shopping yourself. Understand the seasonality of things. It's not like other countries where you can come in and just snap your finger and things are going to be done for you. But when you're interested in entering a market or a business, understand that you need to take your time. If you don't take your time, you're going to run the risk of overpaying for a lot of things. You're going to run the risk of being scammed a lot of times. You're going to run the risk of not even finding the employees to run your business. So first, take your time if you're going to, especially be creating a business that is going to give you some kind of cash flow to live on. Take at least 3 to 6 months. I prefer 6 to just live in the country, understand the neighborhood you're in. You might realize you don't like the neighborhood. You might realize that, you know what, we're not next to a main road, and you need to be next to a main road or a major highway. You might need to be closer to Entebbe. You might need to be closer to Jinja roads. You might need to be closer to the road to Hoima, Masaka, wherever it may be. But you won't know that until you get here. Just because you found that property, just because you found everything that you liked about a certain place, doesn't mean it's going to be a great business venture for yourself. But you won't know that until you have a better understanding of the numbers. So number 4, please take your time to live in Uganda before you invest so you can get a better understanding of the real cost of living as well as the cost of doing business in order to operate a very successful venture. So now that you've done your due diligence and you've got a better understanding of the numbers when it comes to operating a business and you found that right business to get into, number 5, this is, I believe, is a universal law and a universal rule. And I think everybody should follow this, whether you're operating in Africa, Asia, continental America, or Europe. And that is, do not trust verbal agreements. I don't care if it's your cousin, your mother, your sister. I don't care who it is. If you're actually going to be going into business, do not trust a verbal agreement. Have everything in writing. Hire an attorney. There's plenty of attorneys in Uganda. Pay the necessary fees that need to be for you to draw up the contract in order to have everything in writing. Whether it be a business contract, an operational agreement, a financial agreement, have the necessary paperwork in writing. Uganda follows British common law, to my understanding. So there is a legal system here that you can do the research that's necessary. But when you go to court, I have experience. I've been in court in Uganda several times. I've been involved in lawsuits several times. The judge doesn't care what you said, what you thought, what you heard, or what happened. My cousin said this, my brother said that. What they care is, what documentation do you have to prove your case? And take it from me, documentation, documentation, documentation. I'll say it 3 times. I've touched on it earlier in the video, but this is an extremely important fact. Number 5, please don't trust verbal agreements in Uganda or anywhere else for that matter of fact. Have everything in writing. And I think a lot of times, a lot of Americans, a lot of diaspora folks, and even Ugandans fall into this trap of believing a family member or a friend that they grew up with, when in reality, paperwork may not even save you, but it'll be the added extra security that you have in order to go to a court and say, you know what, this is what we have. We wrote this at this date, at this time, and here's my signature, here's the other party's signature, and this is the contract that we're basing it off. Because contract law is real, there are laws that follow here in Uganda, and if there's ever a dispute, at least you have a way to mitigate any losses that might come around based on any conflict that might arise. So number 5, in order, when you're doing business in Uganda, don't use verbal agreements at all. Have everything in writing and have an attorney look it over. I might even say, if you've got the money, have another attorney give you a second or a third opinion. Because a lot of people invest a ton of money here, I've seen people spend $1 million on a property and don't have the proper paperwork because they didn't want to spend the extra $2,000-3,000 on an attorney. And that has been a mistake that's cost them dearly. So we don't want that to happen to you. We have our own scary experiences when it comes to legal matters in Uganda. We'll make other videos. But for today's purposes, number 5, don't have a verbal agreement, have everything in writing as you should anywhere around the world. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this about investments in Uganda, please leave us a comment below, and please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.